Hello and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is a board member and technical advisor for Barksdale Resources, a company committed to increasing shareholder value by acquiring, exploring, and de-risking world-class metal projects in Arizona. Dr. Quinton Hennigh, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jesse. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I want to get started with the silver markets today. Always a hot topic on this channel. I wonder where you see the silver market at the moment. Obviously, we had a lot of excitement recently as it almost reached a daily close of $35. But today, we're just above $30 an ounce, around $31 and change. Disappointing many. I don't know any longer suffering group of speculators than silver stackers. Is this a buy the dip moment? Is caution warranted at this point? How do you see silver performing moving forward?
Well, things have changed recently, obviously politically in the world and in other ways. So I think we're seeing a pretty dynamic response to the precious metal market, to the commodity markets in general. And it doesn't really alter my view, fundamental view about where silver's headed. Okay, I think that silver is really in a deficit and will be for the foreseeable future. In other words, the production levels are at a deficit, probably 670 million ounces yearly, whereas the consumption levels are rising. You know, it's in the mid 800 million ounce range and moving upwards from there. We could see a billion ounce consumption on a yearly basis in a very, very near future. Okay, so demand's going up. We're not building mines to replace that available silver. And, you know, the reserves, from what I see, the reserves, you know, people that have either squirreled away silver or, you know, some of these groups that have kind of warehoused large inventories of silver are, that's not so readily available anymore. It's starting to diminish. I think we're going to see silver steadily rise. I don't like to see asymptotic price increases in silver. I do not like to see that. I think it's bad. You know, silver has a long history of spiking and then coming off very hard. We don't want that, guys. Okay, $31 today. That's a great price. It's enough value that it will start to catalyze more exploration, more development, and stuff like that. But if we see a steady rise in silver prices, you know, over the next year or two, would I complain? Absolutely not. I'd love to see that.
When it comes to the monetary versus the industrial side in the silver market, how do you view that? Because I've heard some people say, on the one hand, that a global recession is coming and that could deal a major blow to industrial demand. And I've also had people saying that silver is no longer a monetary metal. It's lost that role. It's purely an industrial commodity. However, I've heard many voices on the opposite side as well saying, actually, no, solar demand is now one of the huge additional new drivers for silver that's going to greatly increase the demand picture. What are your thoughts, silver, monetary versus industrial, and how you see that picture?
Okay, I do think the growth in silver demand is largely driven by industrial uses. Okay, so you know, solar panels, as you said, are increasing. The demand is increasing. There's other uses for silver too that are starting to increase as well. Silver has some unique properties that are just very much in demand with some of the new technologies that we have coming up. Okay, does it mean that there's not a place for silver in the monetary side? No, that actually is still there as well. We still see a very strong level of interest in silver in that regard, as you know, as a safe haven, if you will, or a form of money. You know, look at Russia recently. They've certainly said that they see a value in silver being a form of money. Silver, probably, in my view, probably above and beyond gold, is actually more of a monetary metal. If you think about it, 100 years ago, your average person would have very likely would have had silver coins in their pocket. Okay, they would have had a coinage in their pocket, whereas gold coinage, they probably would have kept that in their sock drawer. That was a form of, like a store of wealth that you keep offline. It's not something you necessarily spend every day. So, look, I think the days of silver returning as a money, are they coming back? Is it coming back like we would have seen in the early 1900s? Probably not. But is it still valued as a money out there? Absolutely, if not even more so. Yeah.
Give us your outlook on the copper sector at the moment, what you see as the main demand drivers, and how is the supply side set up? Because we're hearing a lot of reports of massively increased demand, and obviously the time and expense it takes to bring a copper mine online from discovery to production is absolutely huge. And a lot of analysts have pointed out that there's not enough producing copper mines at the moment to meet this growing demand. What are your thoughts?
Well, there is a serious lack of development in the copper space in new mines. There's not been enough capitalization. You have seen some mine expansions being capitalized. That's a pretty common trend, and that'll provide an incremental increase in copper availability. But I think we need to see new mines getting built, and we're just not seeing that capital allocated. Now, part of that is because and this is going to sound a little strange, but in my view, there are not a lot of really high quality copper projects out there. Okay, there are projects that are in areas that are difficult, that are going to be difficult to permit, difficult to advance. So there's one challenge. There are a lot of copper deposits that have other issues, though, too, technical issues. Okay, and this includes metallurgical issues. Maybe there's a bit higher arsenic in the copper than is ideally desired by smelters, for example. That's an increasing problem these days. Grade is certainly diminishing. You look at the grades of discoveries recently, or what we call discoveries. It's steadily declined over the recent years. These are all issues that tell us that there's not a lot of high quality inventory for new deposits out there. Now, at the same time, we are seeing increased demand. There's no question that we're starting to see um, rejuvenation of infrastructure. We need to catch up, quite frankly, just to rebuild a lot of infrastructure, let alone to provide the new wiring that's needed to expand our electric grid. The needs for that electric grid are increasing with AI and such, that it's going to be a challenge to keep up. So I think copper has a pretty good future. All right, copper producers have a very good future ahead of them because the supply and demand. There's going to be a big gap, a lot more demand coming, and there's not a lot of supply coming online.
And yet we've seen copper prices drop rather sharply since running up to just over $5. I want to read a quote from an article on FX Street. In this article, they quote the price per ton. They said, according to a survey of participants at a major copper conference in Asia, the price could fall to 8,500 per ton in the first quarter of 2025. However, there are also many critical voices pointing to the scarcity of copper concentrate, which is slowing down production. One analyst puts next year's deficit at over 1 million tons. How do you view this current pullback in prices despite the solid supply demand fundamentals here?
Sure. Yeah. Look, everybody would like to say the world's ticking along, humming along at 100%. It's not. Okay, China's having some issues, quite frankly, and if you want to categorize China today, you might even say they're kind of in a bit of a depression, to be frank. Okay, now they at the same time realize that they've got to pull themselves out of this melee. They got to pull themselves out of this situation they're in, and they've been building smelters in China with huge capacity. Okay, so you talk about this shortage of concentrates that are available. It's largely driven by the fact that the Chinese have overbuilt capacity. Why have they overbuilt capacity? Because they're trying to capture more of the metals market. They're trying to establish their own reliable supply chains so that they can continue to manufacture in China. That's where their economy lies, is manufacturing. They want to maintain that. They want to keep people employed. They don't want to have people unemployed, unhappy. They want to build their economy, and it is a manufacturing-based economy. Okay, so I think this shift that you see recently, it's not just copper; it's a lot of metals, where you're seeing negative treatment charges for copper and for zinc and lead, and so is a phenomenon that's largely driven by China. They don't really care about the price of the metal so much. They care about having that metal available for their manufacturing base.
Let's touch on zinc and lead here, two metals that Barksdale is also involved in, but they get very little media coverage or discussion online. Talk to us about the current setup you see for both of those metals, zinc and lead.
Just like copper, you have not seen any significant deposits come online in recent years or months. Now that that said, the one exception in DRC, Freeland just got his zinc mine going, I think about 2 or 3 months ago. So Kipushi is now online, and it does have a little bit of a near term impact on zinc prices. Like you can see, zinc was making its way up, and it's kind of pulled back fairly sharply here recently. I think that's because a lot of those concentrates are coming into the market, but they're going to quickly get absorbed, and because of this deficit of concentrates that's out there, I think they're going to quickly get absorbed, and you're going to see the demand for zinc and lead concentrates continue to increase. Don't forget that silver is also tied to those metals. Almost all zinc and lead concentrates have a significant component of silver, and so we see a direct link, a direct impact on the silver as part of that. We have not seen new significant zinc discoveries or lead discoveries in recent years. We need to get out and explore. We're way behind the ball.
Well, let's discuss how Barksdale Resources fits into the picture. Let's start by giving an overview of the company for those who aren't familiar.
Okay, Barksdale is a company that's focused very much on one project at this point, and that's in the Hermosa district in southern Arizona. This is extreme southern Arizona. It is part of, you got to put it in context of where it is. It's in part of the greater Arizona Copper Belt, and we have a very large porphyry system called Sunnyside, which is really the core, like the heat engine of the Hermosa district. Okay, so think of it like the mothership that provided the metals that we're exploring for. Excuse me. So Barksdale is exploring a CRD. This is a carbonate replacement system, as well as skarn mineralization, which is really cooked up rock that was adjacent to this porphyry. And they're exploring in an area immediately down dip from the Taylor deposit. Taylor is owned by S32 Mining. It's an Australian firm, and they are building a gargantuan mine at present. They are on track to spend and invest something over $2 billion to advance the Taylor deposit, and I think also their Peak deposit to becoming the newest, greatest mine, underground mine, certainly in North America. Okay, it's a zinc, lead, silver deposit, to be very specific. Taylor is. So we are looking for the down dip extension of that at Barksdale. We are currently drilling immediately down dip from Taylor in an area that we think will see the natural extension of that deposit. If we find the natural extension, you gotta put it in perspective. Think about it. We're basically finding the other half of an existing ore body. Okay, so S32 came in and bought Arizona Mining approximately, I think, 8 years ago, something like that, for about $1.6 billion US for that Taylor deposit, the Taylor resource. We're trying to find the rest of it. How much might we find? I don't know. It could be that we have the better part of it because we are actually down dip and closer to the intrusion that drove the system. That Sunnyside porphyry is on our ground. So this puts a very interesting picture together where we might have a critical piece of the CRD system, perhaps higher grade with luck. Perhaps it's got a higher copper component as well. We do think that we're probably going to be in the regime of the system where we see significant copper, maybe even a bit of gold too. Okay, so this is all possible. We're very excited with this deep drill hole that we're drilling right now, that we're going to see some results here, not too distant future.
Well, as a technical advisor to Barksdale, you touched a little bit there on the geology of the project. I wonder if you could dive a little bit deeper and let us know what you're seeing that makes you bullish on Sunnyside.
Well, first of all, the drill holes, or historic drill holes and stuff in this area, and some of them are on our ground, have encountered very high grade mineralization. So that's why we're all hopeful that we will see high base and precious metal values in this area. Uh, with the drilling that we're doing, we are seeing significant alteration in even early signs of mineralization. Just a few days ago, Barksdale put out a news release talking about results from the upper part of the drill hole. The upper part of the drill hole is not the main prize. Okay, it's what's at depth. But the fact that we're already seeing some pretty high metal values, even in copper, like 4+% copper in some of the intercepts up high in the hole, I think is very encouraging. It speaks to a very strong mineral center. You can listen to Peter McGaw's talk here recently. Peter, of course, is a very famous geologist in the CRD world. He's kind of an expert in the silver space. And Peter gave an absolutely exceptional, or did an exceptional video in the recent time, about probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, that people should look up and listen to. If you want a good education on what we're trying to tackle here, that's it.
Yes, I saw that video. Very informative. I'll put that in the description below for people who want to check it out. You mentioned there about the recently announced assay results from the ongoing drill program at Sunnyside. Could you walk us through those in a bit more detail and what they mean for the company moving forward?
Sure. So to tell you how this drill hole goes, the top part of this thing is actually mainly in the volcanic rocks that were adjacent to the porphyry when it was intruded. And these volcanic rocks are not hosts for CRD. You need carbonated rocks like limestones and stuff like that. They're at depth. Okay, so the big prize in our view is going to be those carbonate rocks that are below the volcanic rocks. Nonetheless, up here in the volcanic rocks in the top part of this drill hole, we saw some pretty good values of copper. We actually saw a significant blanket of what we call chalcocite, which is a copper mineral. And it's an extension of a known system that's seen through this district. Historic drilling, for example, has hit, tens to maybe 100 plus meter of 0.3, 0.5% copper over and over and over again over a very broad area. We're seeing that in this top part of this hole too. That's kind of intriguing because if you think about it, I mean, there's also, not only is there this Taylor extension, high grade potential at depth in the carbonates, we're now seeing very clear evidence that there is a very large copper system at a shallow depth in this area. So I'm intrigued with that. It's something we're thinking pretty hard about now internally as a company. Maybe there's something we should do here with this known, bird in hand, we'll call it shallow copper system. But is that the main prize? No, the main prize is still the extension of Taylor. Taylor is a 130 million ton deposit, high grade zinc, lead, and silver, and we have the extension. I'm very confident that we're going to find the balance of Taylor on our ground.
Well, talk to us more about the team behind Barksdale Resources, how their experience and expertise in the field can help drive the company's success, and maybe starting with yourself and your own background.
Look, certainly I'm an exploration geologist. I've been in the mining industry for, almost 40 years, which is kind of scary. Started work in the mining space in Colorado here. I worked underground as a miner in a gold mine here in Colorado. But when I went through university, I started working for majors. I worked for Homestake and the Newcrest and Newmont, starting in the early 1990s up through 2007 or so. I then jumped over because my passion is exploration, and I really saw that the focus of exploration in the majors kind of diminish over the years, and it shift over to the junior space. I jumped into the junior market in 2007. Really haven't looked back. I've been associated with a number of junior companies. I've also helped advise Prescott Capital, which is an investor, in fact, one of the bigger investors in Barksdale. And I'd like to invest in this space, but I also like to apply my skills to help them make discoveries. So here I am at Barksdale. I brought in Alan Roberts, who's a very skilled geologist. He lives here in Colorado. So I've known Alan for quite some time. He helped drill up the Springpole deposit for Gold Canyon up in Ontario a few years ago. He and I worked very closely together on that for about 3 or 4 years. And when I found out Alan was available after the delays that they were seeing at Castle Mountain, this is Equinox's mine, I said, Alan, could you come help us here? Why? Because I knew Alan has the skills and patience and knowledge to get these deep and challenging drill holes down. He knows how to get the job done. So he's come in. He's also got some of his team members. He's got a very close group of people that work with him that were at Castle Mountain. They have jumped over and are helping us now. And I think we'll be successful with these guys.
Is there anything we haven't yet covered when it comes to Barksdale Resources that you think it's important for potential shareholders to know about the company?
You got to understand that Barksdale, this is an exploration company, and we are earning in. Okay, you got to understand we are earning in on this project. We have very strategic goals to complete that earn-in. We want to deliver this value for our shareholders. It's not just about discovery, but it's also about increasing our ownership in the project through the work that we do. As soon as we make this discovery, as soon as we show the world that Taylor extension or perhaps the Peak deposit, Peak is the copper deposit that seems to be causing a lot of excitement at S32 immediately to the south of us too. So Taylor's coming in, but Peak is coming in underneath from the south. If we show that's underground, this is going to be one of the most exciting stories, I think, in the exploration community in the United States. It's going to take a little time, a little patience. This is deep drilling. Everybody that remembers Arizona mining remembers it took some fortitude, intestinal fortitude, to drill and make discovery. But we have that, and we're going to do a good job.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put a link in the description below to Barksdale Resources website, as well as social media and the video that we previously discussed. Thank you once again, Dr. Hennigh, for coming on and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Thank you, Jesse.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.